Skelly, how this must have been a good week for you. You've got to be feeling good. You're high on your own supply of these lower interest rates this week.
Yes, it's funny. The news, people in the news don't like to be wrong. So for a long time, forever, they were saying, "Oh, rates are going to go down. Rates are going to go down." Finally, everybody in the news stopped saying that and started saying, like, "Okay, rates are going to be hanging out, around 7 for a little while, and it doesn't look like they're going down." And then we went down.
Yeah, we
So
we we hit almost a 4-month low this week. So Brian Skelly's going to break that down for us. Maybe why that happened. Is it around to stay? I think that's the big question on buyers' minds who haven't locked in. Are these rates around to stay? Could they go lower? We'll have that conversation. We also have a story from the U.S. Today where Connecticut made a another top 10 list. This time for best spots for art lovers. There is a Connecticut town on this top 10 list. How high did we get and which town was it? We'll break that down. Of course, we've got the one team rewind and all of our open houses and new listings later on in the show. But Skelly, let's start with the rates. This was good news certainly for buyers who are in the game right now, thinking about locking in, shopping in this early spring season. Why did the rates move down, and are they here to stay?
yeah, we'll definitely talk about why they moved down and what forces are impacting the market, predicting the future as always, especially this year. Very, very
Yeah, I was
difficult
trying to
do.
trap you there. I know you weren't going to
Yeah,
do
I'm
the
not going to
second
go for it.
question.
I'm going to say
That's
it's
called
right
entrapment.
now. It's even harder than usual to predict the future because you have conflicting forces pushing against each other.
Well,
So we'll talk
if
about
you're
it.
the Redfin, I'll jump in there. If you're the Redfin chief economist, then you have this special talent of predicting the future. Just side note before we get into the rates, I shared this on my X account at Byron Lazine. If you want to connect with me over on X, formerly Twitter, but the chief economist for Redfin, Daryl Fairweather, she's showing this listing down in the East Coast in Florida. It's a $285 million listing. It's the most expensive home for sale in the U.S. right now. And she says because of the extreme flood risk score, that it is a guarantee that this house will be underwater in the next decade or so. She guaranteed it. Like she is Nostradamus of chief economists. I typed into ChatGPT. I said, are chief economists supposed to make like blatant predictions on what will be flooded or underwater? And GPT told me no. In fact, that would be insane. So some people can predict the future. You're just not one of those, Brian. But go ahead and tell us about
Yes.
why the
Well,
rates
actually, that'll
came
be
down.
another interesting topic for later in the show. I don't know if you saw the email I sent, but FHA guidelines actually loosened up some of their flood
Yeah,
requirements in response to requests from the White House to make it easier to build houses. So there's going to be some pros and cons of that for sure.
particularly in floodplain flood zones, and so that'll be important for our coastal residents to understand the deregulation now happening with the new Trump administration around building on the shoreline. It's very interesting. It's early, but it is a waiver that's for a year. We'll get into that later too. So, all right, tell us about the rates.
All
Enough
right.
of
So
my side notes.
let's take a look at the rates. So, quick walk down memory lane. Going back to January 28th, according to Mortgage News Daily, average rate was 7.07. First week of February, it was 7.05. Second week of February, 7.05. Third week of February, 7.02. So it's been hanging right around that just above 7 range. In the last week, we saw it hit a low on Wednesday this week, 6.78, according to Mortgage News Daily. Lowest it's been in about 4 months. So, of course, I went online. I was like, what's making the rates go down? From what I could tell, the biggest impact was the consumer sentiment survey, which is pretty interesting. I mean, a lot of the times we talk about inflation numbers, and that's hard data about, how much inflation went up, or we talk about unemployment, and that's hard data about how many people filed for unemployment. But consumer sentiment is actually like a survey of consumers about how they feel about the economy. And it's interesting because, if you look at what's going on in the main news cycle has a lot to do with, the new administration and cutting of the federal workforce. So I think And it's interesting too, because a couple times, Trump's come out and said, we need the rates lower, we need housing to be affordable. Both presidential candidates were saying we need housing more affordable, but it's very difficult for, you can't just say I want lower rates and then like wave a magic wand. I mean, the market, it determines the rates. But what's going to be interesting is an unattended consequence of firing a lot of people is that affects unemployment, and it also affects consumer sentiment. So, if you're driving to work every day and you're turning on the radio and you're hearing the news about, lots of people losing their job, that makes people feel a little bit apprehensive about what the future of the economy is going to be. And so, that was a big driver of the market this week, that people were not as confident as they used to be. So that did actually make mortgage rates go down. When consumer sentiment weakens, that makes investors fear that the economy might not be as strong in the future, and therefore, they're more likely to invest in safe assets like bonds and mortgages, and that's why rates goes down when that happens.
Yeah, we've heard it all year. If you want the 30-year fix to break, basically long-term rates, 10-year treasury, 30-year fix, these types of things, then you need the labor market to break, which means unemployment goes up, which is also not good for the economy. But we did see the unemployment data for this week go up on Thursday. That data came in at the highest level since the first week of January.